Today we're going to chat about the 5 most hijacked cars in South Africa. As a motorist in South Africa, there's quite a few challenges and decisions that you have to make when you buy a car. What type of car do you want? Do you want petrol, diesel? Where you're going to buy the car? Is it a reputable place that you're buying the car from? How old is the car? Does it have a warranty? Should you take an extended warranty? There are many things that you're going to think about, questions that you can ask yourself when you're shopping for a used car. But one thing in South Africa that you need to also check is, are you buying a car that's on top of the list of hijackers in South Africa? Because unfortunately, South Africa is one of those countries where hijackings happen every hour according to the stats. So we're right up there with Uruguay and with Mexico. And in today's video, we're going to highlight the 5 most hijacked cars in South Africa. And if you don't want to be hijacked, you should probably avoid them. We're also going to provide you with some alternatives so that you can know what other choices you have if you don't want to buy a hijacked popular car. Now, the cars that we're going to list today are cars that are popular, but any car can be hijacked. There is no car that's immune to being hijacked in South Africa. Now, if you don't know what car hijacking is, if you've been living under a rock in South Africa, or if you're not from South Africa, I'll quickly show you a video so that you can actually see what car hijacking is. Now, in the video that you've just seen now, that's the unfortunate event that's called car hijacking in South Africa. Very simple, a group of criminals, they target you, they follow you somewhere, and then they try to trap you in to box you so that you can't move the car. A couple of them would then jump out with firearms and they would try to forcefully take the car from you. In the video that we just saw now, the actual owner has a firearm himself and he started shooting at the people trying to hijack the car, and the hijackers were unsuccessful. And that's occurring more and more, where people are becoming aware of hijackers. They know the process and the steps that they follow to hijack people, and people are becoming more aware. So you'll see that people are shooting back and they're also ramming into cars. With many of these videos online, you'll see with an attempted hijacking that if the hijackers pull up behind the car, the moment the person notices that they're going to be hijacked, they just start reversing, they ram into the car, they ram in front of the car, and they just start to destroy the car that the hijackers come with. And that's right, you should definitely not be sitting there, just sitting still and just be part of the process of being hijacked. If you can avoid the process, you should definitely try to defend yourself or get yourself out of the sticky situation. Now that we have that out of the way, I also want to mention that car hijackings are mostly popular in the Gauteng province, and many other cities and provinces are not affected by hijackings. But Gauteng is the mecca of car hijackings in South Africa. Any person who lives in Gauteng, Joburg, Pretoria, wherever in Gauteng, they've either been hijacked themselves or they know a person who have been hijacked. That's unfortunately how popular hijackings are in Johannesburg, and most people are aware of them. And it also affects your insurance cost as well. So if you live in Joburg and you want to insure a popular car on this list, you must be prepared to pay a premium to have the car insured. Let's get into the list of the 5 most hijacked cars in South Africa. Number 1 on our list today is the Volkswagen Polo and Polo Vivo. Now, the VW Polo has been on top of the hijackers list for quite some time in South Africa. Although VW Polos are very popular in SA, they are cheap to insure, they're cheap on fuel, they're just general great cars, they're great student cars, they are extremely popular to being hijacked. Now, if you don't want to buy a Volkswagen Polo, there are quite a few other options that you can look at. Even if you're going new or used, you can either look at Renault Clios. You can look at Hyundai i20s. You can look at Toyota Etios. Those are all cars within the same type of comfort and spec that you can expect. Another car that you should also look at is the Ford Figo and of course the Ford Fiesta. So those are your alternatives. If you don't want to buy Volkswagen Polo, if you don't want the hottest car in South Africa that gets hijacked, you should definitely look at your alternatives. Number 2 on our list today is the Toyota Fortuner. Now the Toyota Fortuner is very popular because Toyota parts are interchangeable. You'll find that the hijackers that hijack Toyota vehicles, they know that the parts can fit on the Quantums, that there's various other vehicles that the parts can fit on. So that makes the Toyota Fortuner extremely popular. Now there are some very good alternatives. If you don't want to buy a Toyota Fortuner, you can look at a Ford Everest. You can also look at the Mitsubishi MUX. And then of course you can look at the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport. If you don't want to be hijacked, avoid the Toyota Fortuner. Although it's a great car, it's robust. If there's anything that I will tell you today, you can go up in Africa confidently, it's a Fortuner, but you do need to be aware that they are very popular to be hijacked in South Africa, and if you want to get one, be ready. Number 3 on our list today is also South Africa's best-selling bakkie, and that's the Toyota Hilux. Now the Toyota Hilux, it's the same thing as with the Fortuner. These parts are interchangeable, so the hijackers are going to continue targeting Toyota vehicles because the parts can fit from one vehicle to the next. And the taxi industry with the Quantums, that is a big part that drives people to hijack Toyota vehicles. And unfortunately, that is the harsh reality. If you want to buy a Toyota Hilux bakkie, or if you own one, you need to be aware that you can be targeted pretty much any time of the day if you're driving a Toyota Hilux bakkie. Now, of course, the bakkie market is very diverse in South Africa. There are many other options that exist if you don't want to buy a Hilux. The best thing next to the Hilux is probably the Ford Ranger, which we'll get into shortly. That's a good alternative. You can also look at the Mitsubishi bakkies, and then of course you can look at the Nissan Navara as well. Those bakkies are not as targeted and you would be much safer off in Mitsubishi. Number 4 on our list today is the Ford Ranger bakkie. Now the Ford Ranger bakkie is nowhere near as popular on the hijackers list like the Toyota Hilux, but it is quite popular, and you need to be aware that if you want to own a Ford Ranger bakkie, or if you own one right now, that you can be a target for hijackings. Now most of these Ford Ranger bakkies that gets hijacked in South Africa, they get sent over to other African countries like Zim, Mozambique, and their parts are also interchangeable as well. Now you do have some good alternatives similar to what we just mentioned with the Hilux. You can look at the Mazda BT50, you can look at the Mitsubishi Triton, and of course you can look at the Nissan Navara or any Nissan hardbody bakkie as well. That should probably be a good alternative. Number 5 on our list today is the BMW X5. Quite a popular luxury car to be hijacked. So if you do own a BMW X5, you do need to watch out in the luxury segment. Out of all the cars that are being hijacked, the X5 from a statistical point is definitely being hijacked more than all the other cars. And if you're looking at a BMW X5 alternatives, there are many. You can look at Mercedes-Benz ML, you can look at Discovery. There's many luxury SUV alternatives that you can buy if you don't want to get yourself a BMW X5. Car number 6 on our list today, which we call the bonus car, because we've only recently noticed that they're becoming much more popular with hijackers, is the Volkswagen Golf 7 GTI and the Golf 7R. If you are interested in buying a Golf 7 GTI or the Golf 7R, you need to be aware that these cars are very popular with hijackers and they are targeting them more and more and more. We are seeing more instances of Golfs being hijacked, and it's quite a popular car target. Now, of course, there are many alternatives in the hot hatch space. So if you don't want to buy Volkswagen Golf 7 GTI or the R, you can of course look at the Focus ST. You can also look at the Focus RS. There's the Honda Civic Type R. The Audi S3 we don't recommend because we've seen they are also being targeted as well by hijackers. So we're not going to recommend you get that car. But there are many other alternatives that you can look at. Maybe you also want the Renault Megane RS. That's another great alternative that you can consider. Now, of course, nobody wants to buy a stolen car, and if you do want to buy a used car in South Africa and you want to check if it's stolen or not, simply take the VIN number, enter it onto the Wheel Index VIN number check tool, and our report will indicate to you if the car is currently listed as stolen by the South African Police Services, or of course if it's clear there's no issues with the car. Now, if a car gets hijacked today and the owner of the car reports it to the police, our system will know by tomorrow that the car is listed as stolen, and we will indicate that on your report. So be cautious when you buy a used car. Always do a VIN number check. We cannot stress how much we recommend it. That's it for today. My name is Kurt from wheelindex.co.za, the place where South Africans go to shop when they are buying or selling used cars. Catch you back next time. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Cheers.